Hello class, this is Austin Bradford. I did our discussion piece this week on a informative immigration article that I thought was extremely interesting, and I thought I would explain it to the class. So I would like to explain to the class how our immigration system works and its ultimate downfalls, and spread the conversation and its ultimate downfalls that sparks conversation throughout our nation. Through a document posted on October 10th, 2019, by a website called AmericanImmigrationCouncil.org. They attempt to explain how the immigration process works. The primary objective of immigration laws is as follows: the reunification of families, admitting immigrants with skills that are valuable to the U.S. and to the U.S. economy, protecting refugees, and promoting diversity. And it's processed through the Immigration and Nationality Act, or the INA. The INA allows the U.S. to grant up to 675,000 permanent immigrant visas each year across various visa categories. Additionally, each year the President is required to consult with Congress and set an annual number of refugees to be admitted into the U.S. through the U.S. refugee resettlement process. And you'll see me talk about these actually particular statistics later and why that's kind of important to like current issues and stuff. I have my outline here, so please forgive me. Family unification is an important principle governing immigration policy. The family-based immigration category allows U.S. citizens and LPRs to bring certain family members to the U.S. Family-based immigrants are admitted either as immediate relatives of U.S. citizens or through the family preference system. Prospective immigrants under the immediate relatives category must meet standard eligibility criteria, and petitioners must meet certain age and financial requirements, which some of them are listed below, which are immediate relatives are either spouses of U.S. citizens, unmarried minor children of U.S. citizens under 21 years old, and parents of U.S. citizens, and the petitioner must be at least 21 years old to petition for a parent. And then we have section 2 that I have is employment-based immigration, which is temporary employment-based visa classifications, permits employees to hire and petition for foreign nationals for specific jobs for limited periods, which as we know is like visas. And there's actually a multitude of visas, but I won't get into that because that's a whole another conversation, but it's important to understand this. Most temporary workers must work for the employer that permitted for them and have limited ability to change jobs. Then you have permanent immigration. The overall numerical limits for permanent employment-based immigrants is 140,000 per year, and this number includes immigrants plus their eligible spouses and minor and / unmarried children, meaning the actual number of employment-based immigrants is actually less than 140,000 per year. And then we have per county ceilings, which is in addition to the numerical limits placed upon the various immigration preferences. The INA places a limit on how many immigrants can come to the United States from any one country. So this is why when you look at statistics of visas per country, there is actually a limit on how much, and it's based like a lottery system, which is why there's only a certain amount of people that can actually come to the U.S. because they place a limit on this. And no group of permanent immigrants, family-based, employment-based from a single country can exceed 7% of the total number of people immigrating to the U.S. in a single fiscal year. And then we have refugees and asylees, which is important, refugees are admitted to the U.S. based upon an inability to return to their home countries because of a well-rounded fear of persecution due to their race, membership in a particular social group, political opinion, religion, or national origin. And refugees apply for admission from outside of the U.S., generally from a transition country that is outside their home country. And this is a pretty interesting thing that I found. But after September 11, 2001, the number of refugees admitted to the U.S. fell drastically, And after the Bush administration put new security checks in place, annual refugee admissions returned to their previous levels and rose during the Obama administration. But in the Trump administration, the refugee ceiling has sharply fallen from 110,000 in 2017 to 45,000 in 2018 and 30,000 in 2019. And remember, this article was written in I believe 2019. Um, and it's important to, and a lot of our current immigration issues deal primarily in Central America. Like that's where a lot of, or I would say the majority of like institutions where a lot of families are held. That's where like a lot of kids and stuff are being held and such. And it's all being held in Central America. And here's one of the reasons why. Civil wars in El Salvador, Guatemala, and Nicaragua drove the immigration from significant numbers of Central Americans to the U.S. during the 1980s, which caused displacement, economic instability, and insecurity followed. And although peace accords brought a formal end to civil conflict in all three of these countries in the following decade, political and economic instability continued, and so did migration northward, with many arriving illegally. Between 1980 to 1990, the Central American immigrant population in the United States tripled. So, in order to really understand Mexican or just immigration overall, you really have to look at history mainly, which a lot of people really don't when looking at this issue, and which is why it's so complex. But if I was to break it down, it would mainly come down to like border security. Like that's the main issue between people on the right and people on the left. Like people on the left, you have individuals that are just like, oh, let's just have everyone come to, everyone's invited to, to our country. Just open the borders, because what is it, more morally or ethically they should be here because like we've talked about in previous assignments and such, you shouldn't be stuck in your homeland just because your government fails to provide particular services to you. So you shouldn't have to be forced to basically suffer because of it. And then you have those on the right who are very stiff on security and such, and they're very critical of those being that are legal, right, and then those that are illegal. And so they want the stiffest border security possible. And until we can somehow meet in the middle of these issues, this is going to be something that's going to be a continuing issue in like future elections and such. And it's just going to be continued to talk about until, like I said, both sides are able to kind of meet in the middle or find some mutual ground. And it's really unfortunate because there's a lot of people out there who need help, but we just simply don't have like the resources. And since it's, like I said, the majority of our immigration issues are being held in Central America at the moment, and they simply don't have the adequate resources, or adequate resources aren't being sent over, or the ones that are, they're not in the right hands because there's a lot of corrupt activities, to say the least, that are going on in the particular area. So even when funds are being sent over, it's not being being used properly, or being used in favor of the people that are being held in these, like I said, these particular facilities and such. It's going to governments and politicians that are there, and basically the little people, or the little guys, or the big guys are basically just eating the little guys, if you guys kind of get that reference. So yeah, pretty much concludes my presentation on an informative article that I'll make sure to post for you guys to look at, because I thought it does a really well a good job on just informing us kind of everything that I kind of discussed, and it's not really biased really that I found in any way. It just really kind of speaks kind of what our current policies and things like that. And another comment that I wanted to make was I've been seeing some things or some presentations that involve like Trump and such like that. He was really the first president that really found loopholes and really maximized the his policies based on those loopholes, which is why it seemed so sufferable and like so intense. And then you obviously had him promoting all of this stuff on his social media and such, and at his rallies, and the verbatim and the words that he used to push his agendas and such. But yeah, he was really the first president that really was that maximized these loopholes in the law itself. So that's another interesting conversation to have another time. But anyways, thank you for listening, and have a great night.